we are going to discuss about hypothesis. Before enter into the hypothesis, we must know about what is research. In the contemporary era, the academic curriculum stressed the importance of research. As a result, UG students have a project, PG students have a project in their curriculum. In a research is a systematic way to find solutions to the problem. And in a research involves collection of data, sampling, analysis of data, lot of procedures. But among all, hypothesis formulation and hypothesis testing are the very important one. Because in order to derive conclusion and inferences, meaningful inferences, a hypothesis is to be tested. From the hypothesis test results, a meaningful conclusion can be given. What is hypothesis? Yes, hypothesis is nothing but a assumption or supposition or possibility which is going to be proved or disproved. It is not a claim of truth but a claim for truth. According to George Lundberg, generalization, hypothesis is a generalized statement. Its validity is to be tested. So, the statement, in order to test its validity, hypothesis formulation is essential. And there are so many types of hypotheses. Let us see them one by one. First, types of hypothesis. First one is descriptive hypothesis. Yes, it describes the existence, nature, forms and distribution of some of the variables. For example, we are considering two variables, the per capita income of Indian people and per capita income of Chinese people. Per capita income is a secondary data, so we collect the secondary data relating to per capita income of the people for 10 years and both variables are compared. So, for comparing the per capita income of two nation people, descriptive hypothesis is formulated. And next one is relational hypothesis. Yes, this hypothesis is formulated to test the relationship between two variables. For example, college A, 25 students are studying and in college B, 25 students are studying in a particular certificate course. So, I am going to compare the progress of these two students. That is college A students' progress and college B students' progress. Both the students are studying the same certificate course. So, at that time, I want to compare the progress of these two students. The relational hypothesis is formulated. Next one is working hypothesis. It is entirely different from descriptive hypothesis and relational hypothesis. It indicates the nature of data, whether it is primary data or secondary data, and method of test to be adopted. Which type of test is used for testing the data? It is a parametric test or non-parametric test. Parametric test means the population is known. Unparametric test means non-parametric test means the population is unknown. It is subject to investigation methods. As per the changes in investigation methods, the working hypothesis formulation is varied. Next one is null hypothesis. 99% of the researchers often used null hypothesis in their research. That is, when the hypothesis is stated negatively, it is known as null hypothesis. Always everyone wants to disprove this hypothesis, that is, reject the hypothesis. The example is, age does not influence the job satisfaction of the respondents. Cigarette smoking is injurious to health. The drug find out for curing dengue fever is not effective. Such kinds of negative statements are framed means it is known as null hypothesis. Everyone wants to disprove this statement only. Next one is alternate hypothesis. When a hypothesis is stated positively, it is known as alternative hypothesis. Everyone wants to prove this hypothesis. That is, if you want to accept this hypothesis. Yes, age is an influencing factor for job satisfaction. Education influences the awareness level of the respondents regarding LIC policies. And there is a close relationship between monthly income and savings of the people. So, these are the examples of alternative hypothesis. Next one is statistical hypothesis. All hypotheses belong to statistics, but there are certain variables, they are quantitative in nature, purely quantitative in nature. For example, job satisfaction, awareness level, intelligence level, these belongs to qualitative statements. Purely quantitative statements, height of the students, weight of the students, sales of the company, production of the company, purely quantitative variables are to be tested means statistical hypothesis are to be formulated. And from the population, a sample is drawn. From the sample, data are collected, and from the data, hypothesis is formulated. Example, group X is older than group Y. So group Y is one group, group X is one group. So we have to compare these two group of people and their age only. Age is a numerical, that is quantitative factor. So statistical hypothesis is formulated. And next one is simple hypothesis. That is, the data consists of empirical uniformities, that is homogeneity. The data is collected from the homogeneous group and the data is relatively empirical possibilities, that is empirical uniformities means this simple hypothesis is framed. There is no heterogeneous or difference in nature. All the respondents have the same feeling, same opinion or same thoughts means the simple hypothesis is used. For example, fresh students confer the rules and regulations of senior students. So empirical uniformity is there, simple hypothesis is formulated. Next one is composite hypothesis. When there is empirical uncertainty or inequality, at that time composite hypothesis is used. For example, from the population sample is drawn, but the samples are heterogeneous in nature, that is different in nature. Their opinion is different entirely regarding a particular aspect. So at that time, composite hypothesis is formulated and results are derived. And next one is explanatory hypothesis. Explanatory hypothesis means it describes the relationship between independent variable and a dependent variable. For example, job satisfaction is a dependent variable which depends upon monthly income, recognition, welfare facilities, safety measures, social status and so on. So, these independent variables influence the dependent variable. It is known as explanatory relationship. So, in order to test that kind of variables, explanatory hypothesis is formulated. These 9 are the most important kinds of hypothesis. And a hypothesis framed should be very good in its character, then only it should give meaningful conclusion. So we are going to see about characteristics of good hypothesis. Yes, the hypothesis should be simple, clear, precise, and it is always based on facts. For example, you are going to study the relationship between sales and profit means the accurate data about sales and the accurate data about profit can be taken. Profit and productivity cannot be taken and sales and productivity cannot be taken. So, the hypothesis is based on facts only. It is capable of being tested. It explains the relationship between two or more than two variables and it should be capable of tested within a reasonable time. It has to claim for the future. It may be, the result may be used for the future. It has empirical references. The hypothesis must have empirical references. These characteristics determine the nature of hypothesis, whether it is good or not. And testing of hypothesis. In order to test the hypothesis, lot of statistical techniques are available. Parametric test, that is t-test, f-test, ANOVA test, z-test are there, and non-parametric test means chi-square test, Mann-Whitney test, Kendall test, Kruskal-Wallis test, a lot of tests are there. So, for testing a hypothesis, first you have to select the tools. So, which tool is used for testing a hypothesis, and computations are done and you have to derive a result. There are two types of result, calculated value, table value, and the calculated value is more than the table value, the null hypothesis is rejected, the alternative hypothesis is accepted. But in some SPSS packages, significance value is presented. By considering the significance value, the hypotheses are rejected or accepted. Significance value means probability value or p value. The p value is less than 0.05 means the null hypothesis is rejected, and otherwise it is accepted. What is meant by 0.05? P level is less than 0.05, the null hypothesis is rejected, because we take a confidence level of 95%. So the error level is 0.05%. When the error level is 0.05%, the null hypothesis is rejected. Otherwise it is accepted. For example, I take a hypothesis, the drug find out for curing dengue fever is not effective. It is a null hypothesis. So I collect the samples for dengue awareness test injection takers and not takers. So I conclude the hypothesis that the drug found out for dengue fever is effective. That is, null hypothesis is to be disproved and the meaningful conclusion is drawn. Thank you very much.